Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here. Lijep pozdrav, poštovani gledalci. Bosna i Hercegovina je ove godine centar evropske sigurnosti. Od 26. do 28. septembra u Sarajevu je održana Sarajevska sigurnosna konferencija 2025. Ovogodišnja tema je nova evropska sigurnosna arhitektura. Jedan od glavnih govornika na ovom velikom skupu u Sarajevu je general Aurelio Colagrande, moj današnji gost. General, welcome to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Welcome to Sarajevo. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And thank you so much for speaking to Hayat TV.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We can start this conversation about safety in European countries. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied because what is happening in the eastern flank has demonstrated that, that European countries, but also NATO allies are very united and ready to respond to any threats that we are facing.
Can the current situation in Ukraine escalate and spread to the Western Balkans countries?
Well, I think they are related, and I think that NATO is doing the right thing in Ukraine as far as the war is going through in the theater, and also in the Balkans. I think the NATO presence is very strong.
General, we know that Russia does not support Ukraine's NATO pact. Is that country an easy target just because of that?
Well, Russia for the NATO is the moment the main threat that we are facing, but we are ready and prepared to do anything we can to protect our allies and our population across all Europe and across all the NATO countries.
So you can control that situation?
Absolutely, and we've demonstrated that in the past, and we are demonstrating that every day with our units, with our soldiers that are deployed in the eastern flank.
You are here visiting Bosnia and Herzegovina, a country that aspires to become the part of your family. What are our chances?
Well, I think that since Bosnia and Herzegovina joined the Partner for Peace within NATO, their military forces are doing a great job with us, and they have demonstrated they can work with us because they have a pretty standardized training, and I think that the cooperation between Bosnia and Herzegovina armed forces and NATO countries will increase in the future.
General, how can Bosnia and Herzegovina defend itself against increasingly frequent threats from Russia and Hungary? I'm sure you know about threats that Russian ambassador said to people of Bosnia and Herzegovina, saying that it is very possible in future that Bosnia and Herzegovina doesn't exist anymore. What can we do?
Well, that's a political question which I leave to, to political authorities. But what I can say is that, the military in Bosnia and Herzegovina can respond to any threats, improving their training, their standards, and working, closer with NATO.
Would the situation be much better and easier if we had a NATO alliance side by side?
Well, I'm pretty sure that will be the case, but it's again a political issue, and political leaders have to agree on the ingress of Bosnia and Herzegovina in NATO. So that's something that I leave to the political leadership, not to the military part of it.
Yeah, I understand. What needs to be done for a country to have a safe status?
Well, I think that NATO allies have set the way forward, increasing their spending for defense, and this, I guess, is the most important thing to do in the period we are living, because the threats we are facing are more increasing than in the past.
Finally, we are here in the Balkans. How can NATO protect its southern flank against the possible Russian proxy warfare, bearing in mind that Bosnia borders two NATO member states?
I think there is no difference, from what's happening in the eastern flank or what could be happening in the Balkans. NATO has to be ready at 360 degrees to defend every inch of its alliance. And I think that what we are doing to assure the safety for our population is that I think we are doing today.
The situation is difficult in many countries. So we have mentioned Ukraine, there is also Gaza. How we all can help them, and how can we stop big players from achieving their war and military goals?
Well, the political situation is changing every day in Europe, and so we need to be ready for any kind of threats that we will face in the future. But the only answer to that is to cooperate even closer than what we are doing today, and work together to make sure that all the threats and risks that we will face in the future are properly addressed. And the answer that the nations have given to so far in increasing their spending in defense will benefit the whole alliance.
How has the ongoing conflict in Ukraine influenced NATO's air and missile defense concepts and operational planning?
Well, I think that what we are seeing in Ukraine is something that we've never seen before. We are operating in a different environment with skies even more contested than before. The use of drones have increased dramatically. But I think that what we are doing in NATO through research, experimentation, and innovation is the right thing to face the new threats.
Is there any problems that NATO is facing right now?
Well, you need to adapt constantly to emerging innovative threats, and that's exactly what you're doing. And especially in ACT, we are pushing innovation and adaptation to these new threats to be ready anytime and anywhere.
So when we are talking about Ukraine, how does NATO protect civilians back there and infrastructure?
So we are doing whatever we can, in Ukraine, and I think what we are been doing so far, also learning from the experience of the Ukrainians, is something that we are really improving, and I guess that our response as an alliance to what happened also, in Poland in the last few days is exactly what we were supposed to do.
We were surprised by that attack from Russia. That was a very bad thing that their drones, right, were in the Polish airspace. What is the solution for that kind of situation?
Well, we were not surprised, to tell you, to be frankly, because we were expecting that something can happen, and we already were with our presence, with our air forces, with our soldiers on the ground in the Eastern Front, just to be sure that we could face threats like that.
Is establishing a no-fly zone even an option?
Well, that's a political question, that has to be agreed by, both the sides.
How does ACT coordinate with member nations to ensure that NATO's air forces are not interoperable, but also ready to respond rapidly to crises on the Eastern Front?
Interoperability is the key word, I guess, and what we are doing is we are pushing even more than we were doing in the past, to make sure that all the NATO countries are interoperable and ready to fight together. And we are doing this, setting the standards, improving our exercises, and making sure that we introduce new technologies that can be ready to use by all of our partners and allies.
NATO has long spoken of the need for a fully integrated air and missile defense system. Where do we stand today, and what are the biggest obstacles, technical, political, or financial, towards achieving that?
Well, we know that we need to increase our defense capability, especially in the integrated air missile defense, but what the allies are already doing is something that we will make sure that we will be ready in the future. And I guess a better integration with our industry system will provide us also the mass that we will be required for the future to be ready and to cope with all the threats that we are facing.
You have mentioned new technologies. How do you see emerging technologies, AR targeting systems, unmanned wingmen, and hypersonic missiles shaping the future of air warfare?
Emerging technologies are a way of life today, and so we need to be ready for them. What we are doing in ACT is pushing on innovation, but also on adaptation. What we mean with this is that through innovation, we will be ready for the medium and long-term threats that we will face in the future. With adaptation, this means that we, using today's technology to improve our already proven capability, we are ready to face today's threats.
General, and for the end of this conversation, I would like you to say some message from NATO alliance to all of people and all of countries that aspires to become a member of you. What can we say that? Specifically to Bosnia and Herzegovina, of course.
Well, you know, I believe that the crisis in Ukraine has pushed NATO allies to work even more closer and together and to assure that our population can be safe today and for the future. And I think that's the biggest message we can give, that our population will be safe and we will protect them and we will do anything we can and anything that will be needed to make sure that we can continue to live our own lifestyle, to keep our values as standards for everybody who wants to live in freedom and in peace.
General Colagrande, thank you so much for this interview. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.